What's up guys, how's it going? Misha here. In today's video, we're gonna be going over how to run a proper triage call and book the warmest calls that you've ever seen in your life. From what I've seen, I've been in this space now, high ticket, for the last 6 years, both as a closer and also managing teams. And from what I've seen, like especially when I hear, like when I do an interview or I hear another closer role play this, or even if I get like called because I opted into something, I hear people do this and they really suck at it, to be honest. I think just the approach that people have is kind of off. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to run a triage call, right? How to call somebody up in the middle of their day when they're not expecting it, how to build value, frame properly, position yourself as an expert, and book that individual into a meeting. And not just book them in for a meeting, but position them for the highest likelihood of a deal closed, okay? Let's jump into it. Before we do get into my Google Doc here, I just want to make one point. I think there's a lot of closers out there, or closers who they'll like flex 40% close rate on highly qualified inbound calls, right? Which, like, if you can do that, that's great. If you're doing well, awesome. But like, at the end of the day, like, real sales is being able to call somebody up in the middle of their day, pique interest, and get them to do what you want them to do in the middle of their fucking day when they weren't expecting it, right? If you can't do that, you can't really call yourself a closer, right? And you see a lot of guys who are just, they're kind of they're spoon-fed these inbound calls, and then they never actually spend any time on the outbound sheet because they know they're not really that confident with it. So they're just like, I'm only going to talk to warm leads. I don't want to talk to nobody else. Like a lot of my top guys now, guys who are doing 10, 15 grand a month, like they're self-booking probably what comes out to their commissions at the end of every month, like 30, 40% of all their commissions come from, them executing high quality triage calls, self-booking meetings, and closing, right? If you're a closer right now, it's like, with all your free time that you have in between meetings, before, after, right? Like, you could be on an outbound sheet doing this and adding an additional 20 to 40% on your monthly commissions, right? If you're an appointment setter even, and you're booking these calls for a closer, I guarantee you there's things in this video that you're currently not doing and you're suffering because of it. And even if you're like brand new to sales and you're just, kind of watching this video just to learn more, you want to have a triage call in your bag. Like this needs to be a layup. Like, this is the core skill of sales. And you should be able to call somebody up and run a perfect triage over and over and over again. And if you can do it, you're going to make a lot of money in this space. So let's talk about how we get our closers making a lot of money doing these triages. Okay, so this right here, this is a slightly edited document that we use internally. So these are the exact processes and scripts and phrases and frameworks that we use with our guys right now. Okay, and by the way, if you want this document, it's linked down below where you can just kind of use this and implement it with what you're doing. Let's jump in. So how to triage and book warm calls. Okay, so what is a triage? A triage is going to be a brief, like 5 to 10 minute call, right? You really don't want it to be much longer than that. Where rapport is built with the prospect, value is provided, and expertise is demonstrated. Okay, a lot of the times, like these words, right, like rapport, value, expertise, right, they're like buzzwords. By the end of this video, you're going to have a higher level understanding of what these words actually mean, what that looks like, and like tactics and exact phrases, words, questions, things that you can do on a call to actually build value, show expertise, and build rapport. Okay, so we do this 5-10 minutes. The goal with this call is to book them into a next meeting, but not just to book them into a next meeting. Like, a lot of the appointment setters out there, like, this is all they're thinking about. Just how can I just book more calls, get more people on the calendar, right? When you're paid not by booking in appointments, but you're paid with whether or not the bookings actually close, right? So the goal is really to warm up your prospect for an easy sale, all right? And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. What most setters and, closers, I say quote unquote closers because, a lot of closers in the space are kind of just like order takers. If you just hop on a call and, just close an already warm qualified lead, great, but that's nothing special, right? You're a closer if you can call somebody up and close a deal in the middle of their day, okay? What most people do, one is they just play the numbers game, right? They're on their auto dialer, they're on their list, and they're just mindlessly dialing leads, with very little thought, very little strategy. They're just, looking for, the laydowns, right? They're cherry picking laydowns. They're looking for that 1 out of 100 leads who's like, you call them up and they're like, oh my gosh, how's it going? So excited to talk to you guys. Yeah, I really want to invest into your guys' coaching. Can you tell me more about it? Like a lot of guys are just kind of looking for those. And if there's any type of resistance, people just fumble. They just crumble under the pressure. Once they get a little bit of resistance, a little bit of skepticism, all of a sudden people are like, okay, cool, just go through the material and let me know if you need any help, right? A lot of guys, they'll just overly qualify where like you call somebody up, you're a few minutes in and you're going for like hard financial qualifiers or, you're like asking for the sale basically before you've even presented anything or even established a need for what you have to offer, right? And then again, if there's any kind of resistance, then it's just, we're disqualifying the lead. I see a lot of guys just like with very little enthusiasm and energy, and they just kind of hit the list like sounding depressed and robotic. And also, they kind of enter interview mode where, you hop on a call and you're basically just doing the exact same things. You're asking the exact same questions over and over and over again, expecting a different result, right? Again, back into the numbers game. You're never going to get rich in this game, or you're never going to make any serious money in this game playing the numbers game, okay? You need to be able to, control the outcome of a sales conversation, right? You have to influence whether or not somebody's going to buy. You can't just expect to run into laydowns all day and close those and then just say, okay, everything else is a write-off, right? So now let's get into our approach, okay? Number one is like you got to understand that most people they're running these calls and you're always going to there's always a little bit of resistance just automatically on an outbound call. Like if you got a call right now from a random number that you don't recognize, instantly your mind goes like stranger danger. This is some random person. I have no idea who they are. They're probably going to try to sell me some shit, right? And their guard is going to be way up, right? So it's like the reason why their guard is up, and just in general, the reason why people are defensive around salespeople is because everybody knows that salespeople are trying to take their money, right? So it's like you want to be, and really like a lot of my sales philosophy is just being the opposite of what everybody else is doing, right? You want to be totally detached from the outcome, right? Like what I'm talking about approach here, like this is kind of like the thought process that you should have like before you start your day, before you hit your list, right? It's like, number one, cool. Like I don't really care about whether or not I book calls, like I close deals or any of this. Like, let me just think of how I can like give value first, right? Like all of these people on my list, right? They've taken a step towards my company. They've opted in, they got a lead magnet, they bought a low ticket course, they attended a webinar, whatever, right? They took the first step, right? So they obviously have a problem that our business solves, right? You got to understand that you are an expert, okay? And you can help them with that problem. You have the knowledge, the information. You've worked with hundreds of other people. Your business is literally fucking built to solve their problem that they're currently experiencing, right? So come in totally detached from the outcome, right? Like enjoy the conversation. You're just an expert who saw their number and thought you'd give them a call just to see how you can help, okay? Now, and really the goal is to find a clear pain or goal. Once we find that, then we can make an offer to help, right? A lot of people, they'll just kind of jump straight into the sales call and just kind of like whip their dick out and make an offer, like before there's really any clear pain or need, right? And then I don't know. I like it's just the wrong frame, right? Like in sales, you always want to have, the frame. You always want to have the control over the conversation, and just the core frame is that they need you. You do not need them, right? When you have that, it's really powerful, right? They're the one with the problem. You're the one with the solution. So it's like in your head, you're just like, okay, cool. Like let me call up some names and numbers. These people checked out our stuff. They obviously have a problem. Let me, have some cool conversations with some people. Let me, see what these people are struggling with and see if there's any way that we can help. Obviously, our goal is to book them on calls, close deals, make money, you know, for obviously, but you have to almost like just forget about all that shit completely and just put yourself into a state of, you know, this is all you're trying to do, okay? That's number one. A lot of sales is intention, right? A lot of salespeople give off like a really weird vibe, and you know, that's where all the defensiveness and the objections and the fucking obstacles, and that's where all that, like 90% of that stuff comes from, okay? Cool, so let's get into it. First off, intro, okay? You're gonna start out with, hey, Joe, hey, John, right? It's hey question mark, right? We want to kind of pique their interest, kind of get them out of their day-to-day, get them focused on the call, right? Hey, name question mark? And they're like, yeah, who the fuck's this, right? Hey, Joe, Misha here with XYZ company. How's it going? Right? And then with who company? With what? Yeah, so you know, attended one of our webinars last week. You signed up to learn more about how you can scale your social media marketing agency. That ring a bell? Or hey, you picked up our $19 ebook on how you can, you know, get more leads for your wholesaling business. You know, shot, you know, Coach Bob a DM online because you were looking to learn more about how you can lose weight for the summer, right? Like, if they don't know who you are, just remind them of the action that they took that got them on your list. Okay, yeah, so reason for the call, I noticed you, you know, attended that webinar. I just wanted to reach out personally just to see if and how we can help you scale your agency. You got a few minutes to chat? Like, even like notice my tone, right? I'm very like nonchalant, I'm very chill, right? Yeah, so reason for the call, I noticed you did this. I just wanted to reach out personally just to see if there's any way that we can help you with desired outcome, right? As opposed to like, yeah, so reason for the call, I noticed you know, just nonchalant, chill. Again, you're a fucking expert, you're just starting conversations, you're detached from the sale. Cool, so once they're like, yeah, sure, I have a few minutes, right? Or even here, let's just say like they say, no, I don't have a few minutes. You see a lot of people, they're like, oh, instantly, okay, this is where they crumble, right? Oh, they don't have a few minutes, oh my gosh, right? And they're like, okay, cool, when's a better time to chat? Yeah, maybe at like this time, just give me a call back then, right? And then you call them back and then they don't respond, right? You got on a call, they picked up the phone, right? Like if you're in the middle of something and you have no time, you don't answer your phone. Like if you're in the middle of something super important, you decline a call. If you answer the call, it's because you're like, oh, who's this, right? So you at least have a couple minutes, right? So they're like, no, I don't. Okay, cool, gotcha. And like, yeah, no problem. And you know, we can wrap up here. Just real quick, like what actually motivated you to attend that webinar? Or like, what were you hoping to gain from, you know, that ebook that you got from us? You know, just hit them with a real quick, what were you hoping to gain from XYZ action? Or, you know, what motivated you to take XYZ action, right? Just get something, that's kind of your in, right? Is kind of what motivated them to do it. You'll get some information at the very least. Maybe you can get in an extra 2 or 3 questions just to get a little bit of context in terms of where they are and where they're at. And then now, like if you really do have to reschedule for later, now you have like 2 or 3 notes down, right? Maybe you can send out some value, X, Y, and Z, right? Like you can run like a 2 or 3 minute triage instead of a 5 or 10 minute triage, right? But cool, let's just say they do have a few minutes to chat. Okay, great. Right, again, what motivated you to take XYZ action? So our goal here is to, our goal here is to get our prospect back into like that initial state of whenever they took the action, right? So, you know, like for example, like we have closers who reach out to leads that are, you know, a few weeks old, maybe a month old, maybe 2 months old, right? And we close a lot of deals, you know, that maybe we just didn't get in touch with for a few weeks, right? And it always starts with this. It's like, hey, so yeah, I noticed you picked up that ebook like 2 months back. Like just out of curiosity, like what actually motivated you to pick that up, right? We want to get them back into where they were when they first took that action, right? Obstacle you're going to get right here is like, yeah, you know, I'm just curious. I'm just kind of looking around, you know, I'm just like clicking on some different things. It just seemed interesting. It caught my attention, right? Like these are basically non-answers, right? Like prospects almost deflecting it, right? So it's like, if you get that, for sure, gotcha. And like, you know, you probably see like thousands of ads every single day, and I'm sure you don't click on every single one. Like what about this specifically like really stood out to you, right? Notice my tone. Notice this specifically really stood out to you, you know? Or even if you want to mix it up a little bit, have some humor. You can be like, gotcha. So like, are you just like one of those psychos who just clicks every single ad that they see just for fun? Or like, is there a problem that, you know, you're trying to solve by, you know, picking up that ebook, right? You can try that out. That one's kind of risky. I see sometimes that crushes, you'll make them laugh, and sometimes they'll just fucking hang up on you because you executed that really bad, right? I didn't mention it yet, but like, your energy, like you should be in a good state of mind, right? Like have some good energy, have some enthusiasm, have some tonality, right? And like you can do stuff like this, right? So really what we're looking for in terms of like what motivated you to take action, like you want them to explain their problem, right? Well, yeah, I mean, I've been looking for a way to make money online now for a few months, and you know, I've just been super frustrated because I can't find anything that works, but like it seems like you guys are the real deal, so I wanted to check it out. Okay, gotcha. You know, awesome, great. Yeah, you know, I've been trying to solve, you know, this problem. I've been, you know, working in this business for, you know, 3 years now, and lead generation's always been a problem. And, you know, I've tried this, I've tried that, and nothing's really worked. So, you know, you guys seem to be doing something a little bit different. I thought I'd check it out, right? Like we want to understand what their problem is that they're actually experiencing, right? Cool. So now it's like we just want to go broad. I mean, you want to build the gap, right? So the gap in sales, where they are, where they want to be, why they're not there. Our product gets them there, right? So you want to build up that gap, right? So first, a little bit of situation, like you don't need to go super deep on this, but it's just cool, man. And like, is it cool with you if I just ask you like 2-3 questions just to see if we can help? Okay, awesome. Can you just give me a little bit of background on you and kind of like what you're looking to gain with all of this? Right? And then, you know, as they kind of talk about what they're doing, right? Like really, a lot of people overthink like digging deeper. I mean, you do want to dig a little bit here, like nothing crazy, but you know, a lot of people overthink digging deeper and they think they need like some crazy like Jeremy Minor, like deep questions and, you know, framing and analysis, you know, like honestly for me, like I especially on these outbound calls, right? Cause it's, you know, it's kind of random, spur of the moment, right? A lot of the times I just like asking questions out of like genuine curiosity and genuine empathy. You know, just like anything that comes to my mind, I just ask, you know, and then, you know, when you have the right intention and when you're like conversational about it, people will just start talking to you, you know, as opposed to like, if you're like, okay, cool. So like, you know, how has it affected you that you're not able to generate leads consistently with your business? You know, it's like, bro, like you just called me 2 minutes ago, like chill the fuck out, you know, like, or if it's like, okay, gotcha. So like you're saying it's been 3 years you've been running this business and like you've been completely built off of referrals. Like that's crazy, man. Like how's that been on you guys? You know, like you ask a question like that, now they're going to be so much more open and responsive, right? You know, so cool. Just give me some background on you and kind of like what you're looking to do with this, and let's take it from there, right? Yeah, it's like this is my background, this is what I do. You know, this might be a little bit different for offer to offer, right? But dig deeper with finesse and personality, right? Like don't be an interviewer. You know, again, detached, expert. You're just enjoying the conversation, okay? Cool. So like we do want to figure out kind of what's the end goal, right? Like what are they actually working towards? What's their vision? You know, so like, hey, so like, what were you like exactly hoping to gain from that training that you picked up from us? You know, or even, hey, so like fast forward, you know, maybe like 6 or 12 months from now, like, what are you looking to accomplish with this? Right? I like to go broad. A lot of people will do like, cool. So like, how much money do you want to be making with your business exactly? You know, like how much money do you want to be making a month? You know, and then it's just like, I don't know. I found like people, they, especially like as an initial vision question, when you just like come out the gates and you're just like, okay, cool. So like how much money do you want to make with your business? Like a lot of people, they've been struggling with whatever their problem is. Maybe it's paralysis analysis. Maybe it's like a business related problem, you know, but they've been struggling with their problem forever. They haven't been able to solve it up until this point. So it's like, you know, them just saying like, hey, like I want to make X amount a month. Like there's maybe a percentage of people that will know exactly where they want to go. But then there's also a percentage of people that will like feel resistance around like giving you a specific outcome. And like everybody goes for the specific outcome, then they get resistance here, you know? So like, Again, I just like to go broad, right? Where it's like, okay, cool. So like maybe in the next like 6 to 12 months, like what are some of the things that you want to accomplish with this? And then prospects will be like, are you asking like how much I want to make, or like what are you asking? I'd be like, well, just in general, like what are some of the first things that come to mind? You know, because I'm just going broad. Like what's important to you, right? Like, is there a specific goal that you have? Is it, you know, you just want to see like progress and you just want to see that, you know, things are slowly working? Do you want to like leave your fucking 9 to 5 and do this full time? Like there's lots of different ways that people think about goals. I just kind of let them talk about it, right? And then really you want to widen the gap. Okay, so this is important, especially when it comes to booking in the actual meeting. You know, because again, our goal here is to book them in for a meeting, right? Like we want them to go and set aside maybe 30 minutes to an hour later on, you know, on a Zoom call face to face where we can, you know, upsell them on our high ticket thing, right? So it's like you want to widen that gap a little bit, right? So it's like, you know, let's just say, for example, someone says, you know, yeah, I'm looking to get into, you know, I picked up that e-commerce ebook because I want to learn how to scale e-commerce, and eventually I'd like to be able to do this full time, right? A lot of the times people will throw out their goals like nonchalant, like, and then closers, you'll get like desensitized to it, that people are literally telling you all day, every day that they're looking to take like a total pivot in their life and go down a completely different direction, make a complete transformation. And you're like, okay, cool, yeah, for sure. Like that's totally realistic. And then you just, you know, brush it off and move forward, right? Like I'd be like, okay, gotcha. So like for you, like this isn't like just a side hustle and kind of something you want to do, but like this is actually something that you want to scale to a full-time level. Like you're actually considering stepping away from your, you know, 9 to 5 tech job to be able to be a full-time entrepreneur. Is that right? You know, like I'll kind of, you know, not label it, but I'll just, you know, kind of emphasize that, right? Because I do want to widen the gap. And they're like, yes, that's what I want to do. Okay, gotcha. That's going to be important for when we, you know, go into to book the call. Okay, cool. So like, great. We've kind of piqued their interest, figured out their situation, their goal, challenge. Okay, this is a huge thing that a lot of people just don't do on the initial call. You know, for whatever reason, and a lot of people kind of struggle with this. I think challenge, whether you're on a triage or even just on a closing call, like this is really one of the most important sections of the conversation, right? This is where you do a lot of the framing. This is where you figure out like what's the real thing that's been holding this person back. This is where you prevent objections. Like you want to get really sharp with your challenge, right? So it's like, first off, you know, the way that you'll set it up, it's like, okay, cool, we're a few minutes into the conversation. Great. So like, by the way, like how long have you been trying to, you know, get an online business started? Right? Or like even, you know, I might phrase that a little bit differently. We want to focus on the change, right? So like, let's say it's an e-com thing, right? And someone's like, and you're like, cool. So like, how long have you been trying to get into e-com? And then they're like, oh, like 2 weeks, you know, I just saw some ads, watched some videos. It's been a couple weeks that I've been, you know, looking into this, right? Basically a non-answer. We got nowhere with that. And if, you know, you're not moving the needle forward on a sales call, you're moving it backwards. So we just move the needle backwards because you didn't ask the question right? Not, hey, how long have you been trying to get into e-com? It's hey, so like how long have you been considering stepping away from your 9 to 5? You know, or like even, hey, like you mentioned earlier that, you know, you feel like you're not really living up to your potential doing what you're currently doing. Like how long have you felt that way for? Right? Like how long have you experienced pain point? Right? Or hey, when did you realize that you want to make a change? Right? Way more powerful than like, hey, how long have you been looking into XYZ opportunity, right? At the end of the day, we're helping them, you know, with the change, not necessarily, like we're selling the change, not the business opportunity, right? And they're like, okay, cool. You know, I've been thinking about doing it for maybe like 2 years. Right? Okay, wow, 2 years, gotcha. So like in that last like 2 years, like what steps have you taken so far to make this happen? Right? A lot of like biz op B2C stuff. It's literally just been like paralysis analysis. You know, they don't want it bad enough. They're lazy. They've tried it and they half-assed it. They've like literally watched one YouTube video and they've done nothing else because of, you know, whatever limiting belief that they have. You know, so like what steps have you taken? It's almost, you know, we kind of know what the response is, right? A lot of the times it's like, well, and then like limiting belief will pop up right there, right? Or even like maybe if it's more of a B2B thing that you offer, we want to figure out, okay, like what have they tried, right? Like what have they tried that hasn't worked for them, So yeah, I mean, with the what steps have you taken, right? A lot of the times it'll be like, well, like I watched a couple of videos or even like, yeah, well, I tried doing this about a year ago and then like, it just didn't really work out and then I put it on pause, right? If you have time, if you can, you might want to dig deeper on that. Okay, cool. Well, tell me a little bit more, like what actually happened there and why did you, put it on pause? Right? And then they're like, yeah, well, I launched my business, I got confused, and then I stopped. Okay, cool. And like, when was that? Yeah, that was like maybe a year and a half ago, right? And like, okay, cool. So like from that year and a half up until now, like, have you tried anything else, or like, have you just been completely, not working on this at all? And then, a lot of the times they'll be like, no, I haven't, whatever. And you're like, okay, so like, has there been anything stopping you from like, getting back into the game? Like this person just a second ago just told you that they really don't like their situation that they're in and they want to go full time with a brand new business, but it's been a year and a half and they've done nothing, right? So that is a misalignment with their actions and their goals, right? If it's out of alignment, we want to address, okay? So, you'll hear a lot of limiting beliefs here, right? Like you'll hear, yeah, I tried, I failed, and then I stopped forever. You'll hear, oh, there's so much information out there, I don't know, where to go. There's all these different gurus and all these different people out there saying all these different things. You'll get a bunch of things, right? But like bottom line, it's like you might have, I didn't have the information to make the change. So it's like, okay, so like what was stopping you from finding that information? Like you have ChatGPT, Google, like what's stopping you from getting the information that you need to make the change, right? Always going to be themselves, going to be some kind of limiting belief, like fear of failure. They don't actually think they can do it. They've been complacent, whatever. They might say, I haven't had the time, right? So it's like, okay, cool. And like, I've always been a big believer that, we don't like we never really have time, like we make time, right? And I know you're talking about making a big change in your life. Like, what do you think's been stopping you from making the time for this? Things like this, right? Like I have other videos where I go deep into challenge, but like the reason why we're kind of grilling our prospect right here, right, a little bit is because of the story/value add. Okay, so really when it comes to demonstrating expertise, providing value, right? Providing value, like fundamentally what that is, it's when you shift a belief in your prospect's mind. Right? It's when they think one way, you talk to them, and then all of a sudden they start looking at it a different way. Right? Now, like a light bulb goes off in their head and they're like, wow, I've been talking to this guy for 10 minutes. And like, that's so true. Like I've been struggling with this thing for months and like, he's right. Like this guy actually understands my problem. And wow, he can actually help me. I've talked to dozens of other cold callers before and never once has somebody actually like given me value and called me out on limiting beliefs or whatever, right? Like you want to be able to shift a belief, right? And where you're gonna find that is right here in challenge, okay? So let's start with the belief shift just because we're on that topic. You can shift two types of beliefs, right? So it could be an industry misconception or it could be a limiting belief, right? So like an industry misconception, for example, like with high ticket sales, like let's just talk about that. Like some people think that, oh, if I just find like the perfect offer and I just have like the warmest leads in the world and I have, I sell a 10K product with a 15% commission and they have consistent ads and they have great fulfillment. Like if I just find that, then I'm going to be successful, right? When in reality, it's like the way that you find that quality of an opportunity is by being the kind of closer that's qualified for that opportunity because you're never going to get it if you suck, right? So like that would be an example of a reframe, right? Where it's like, hey, it's not about finding like these crazy roles. It's about becoming the kind of closer that's good enough to actually demand those kinds of opportunities because once you build the skills to that level, it becomes actually pretty easy to find those roles, right? So that would be an example of an industry misconception, or like, let's say like, I don't know, if someone wants to like get into trading maybe, right? And they're like, oh yeah, like, I've been trading and, I just want to, find someone who knows what they're doing just so I can, copy all of their strategies. And, I just haven't found someone who's actually legit, right? And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, it's not that, you haven't found someone that's legit. It's not that you need somebody who you can copy, but, for you to actually go and be able to be successful as a trader over the long run and like actually build a lifestyle on it, you need to build like deep skill set. You need to be very knowledgeable about the space to actually be able to do it at a high level, right? So it's not that you don't have the right trades to copy. It's that, you're thinking about this the wrong way, right? So yeah, what you want to use is like the us versus them principle, right? Like, or concept or whatever you want to call it. That's probably one of the most powerful, just like naturally, right? Humans are like tribal creatures, right? Like hunter-gatherers. Like if you were not part of the crew, like if you weren't part of the tribe and you got shunned, then like you would die, right? If you're on your own in the freaking wilderness and society doesn't exist, so like that's why when you see like Democrats versus Republicans, right? It's us versus them, right? Oh, they do all of this crazy shit, we do this, and there's always these pointing fingers to the other sides because everybody deep down has a natural sense like we want to be on the winning team, right? So you can use that to your advantage here, where it's like, yeah, I mean, most people getting into trading, like a lot of people, they're just looking for like the quick trades. They're looking for the shortcuts to how to do this. But the problem is like those people, they might get a couple good trades. They might make a little bit of money, but they always end up blowing their account, right? And the reason why is because they don't build the fundamental skill sets, right? So like all of our successful clients that you've probably seen, like every single one of them, like they studied for, on average, like 2 to 4 months before they could develop the skill sets to actually go and be profitable, right? Like I have no clue about trading. I don't know if that's what it actually is, but that would be an example of the us versus them. Most people do this and they're unsuccessful and broke and unhappy. What we do is different. We do this, right? And you can actually use the same principle with the limiting belief, okay? So limiting belief, you're in challenge and then they're like, oh, like I just can't find a business model that works for me. Like because I'm so, special and like I need to find the perfect business model for me, right? Okay, sure, great. Pretty common, by the way. Number one, like when you hear a limiting belief like that, right? Like maybe to me and you, it's like, bro, like get your head out of your ass, like let's go, but first we want to lead with empathy, right? When it comes to a lot of these limiting beliefs, like I can relate to them because a long time ago, like I had a lot of these same limiting beliefs, for example, someone might have a fear of failure, or someone might be complacent with their situation, or someone might not think that their goals are actually possible deep down, right? When you hear that kind of stuff, it's like first level, right? It's like, hey, listen, I get where you're coming from, and especially like kind of being where you're at, being, 22 and having goals of being able to make 20 grand a month, especially like when you don't really have people around you who are doing that, like it could seem like super unknown and super alien where you don't even think you can do it, right? Right? Something like this where you kind of lead with empathy, right? But man, I mean, at the end of the day, like, from what I've seen after working with hundreds of clients and, seeing a bunch of people crush it with this, it's honestly way more achievable than you think. And like the biggest thing that's going to stop you from accomplishing it are the limits that you put on you, right? Because your thoughts and your beliefs lead to actions and actions lead to results. And if you have bad thoughts and bad beliefs, you don't take the actions and you don't get the results, right? So do you think that like that's a belief that maybe you're going to have to shift if you ever want to be able to actually make that kind of money? Great. Yo, like you drop this on a triage in the middle of somebody's day, you're 5-10 minutes into a call and you're getting into this, you are winning, right? This is how you set up the easiest sales calls of your life, right? What happens is like when we wrap up this call, like your prospect, they're going to get off, the call's going to be booked for tomorrow. And like, they're going to be thinking about you. They're going to be like, wow, like that guy like really understood my problem. Like that guy, like that was crazy. Like it sounds like he's actually like wants to help me and he probably can, and like now they're thinking about it. Now they're getting excited about it. They're thinking about you while they're going to sleep, right? Meanwhile, you have a call booked for the next day. It's just, this is why the triage call can make you so much money if you do it the right way, right? And if you can position yourself as different from everybody else by implementing a belief shift, right? So cool. Or you can drop a story, right? So this is pretty simple, but like, let's say like, for example, like you're on a call with someone, maybe they're like in their 30s, they're working 9 to 5, they're not happy, and they're like saying that they're not tech savvy, right? They're like, oh, like all the social media stuff, like, I don't know, like I'm not really that familiar with it. That's the reason why I haven't gotten started yet, right? It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, no, and like I totally get that. It's super common. Like even we had a client that we started working with, I think like 3 or 4 months ago. Her name was Susie. She was working 9 to 5, like working in IT. But like, yeah, like this is a mom of 2, right? Like she's not using TikTok, Instagram, and things like that the way that we are. But the thing with Susie is like she was working that IT job for so long, and she had really reached a point where like she was just saying enough is enough. She wanted to make a change. So like when we started working with her, like every day she was hopping on the calls, asking questions, implementing everything that we were sharing with her. I think it was like her 3rd or 4th month. She actually like popped off. I think she did like $2,000 in total sales, with her XYZ business, and like it really goes to show that like, regardless of where you start, like if you can really commit to just showing up and learning every day, like things can move pretty quick, right? So like, let me ask you, like, I get it. Like it is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because anything worth doing might be uncomfortable. But like, are you at a place where you're willing to push past that and put in the time necessary to actually develop the skills to get the result you want? Or do you think like, it's just too much, right? Something like that. You drop a story relating to the situation, relating to the similar situation and similar pain too, right? Where it's like, oh, this client was experiencing this pain, and they had this obstacle and this challenge that was in their way. This is what they did, and this is the result that they got, right? Like, are you willing to do the same thing? So if you have something like that, you have a client story that matches with where they're at, use it. Very powerful. Okay, cool. So we've built up a little bit of a gap. We've added value. We've shifted some kind of belief, right? We've made them look at this in a different light. We've positioned ourselves as experts. We have the authority. They're looking up to us for the solution. Next thing here, I added this financial qualifier because, a lot of the times, like I know the setters out there, like you like have to financially qualify the lead, especially with maybe like some higher ticket offers, maybe like some $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 stuff. It makes sense to do this. However, I see a lot of people, they do a hard financial qualifier just like out of straight laziness, where like, again, like they just want the lay downs, So you got to understand that if you're going to do a financial qualifier, this is going to significantly drop the amount of people that actually book with you, but it is going to increase the quality of the lead, right? So it's like, unless you are absolutely slammed out and you do not have openings on your calendar, I would probably, like 90% of cases, not do a financial qualifier, right? Again, depending on your offer, it might be different, but I'm just kind of making this observation, right? A lot of people do this out of laziness, and they'll go like really hardcore on the financial qualifier. If I was to do one, this is how I would do it, right? So, hey, from everything we've kind of went over here, I think we could be able to help. Like, to be honest with you, I'm not fully sure. We'd probably have to set up another call just to go over a couple other things. Let me ask you this. Like, let's say we did that. Let's say we hopped on another call, kind of broke down what we do and how we help people, get to 10 grand a month with their SMMA. And given like you felt fully confident that you'd be able to see results with it, like, are you at a place where like you'd be comfortable investing something into yourself? Maybe something like that. I might ask this question if like I'm getting red flags that they're super broke. But like for the most part, the problem with this is like you're asking somebody if they're willing to invest before you've even like properly pitched them. Right? So like if you're just gonna like ask like, okay, cool, and like, do you have $5,000 to $10,000 set to the side that you'd be willing to invest into yourself? Like if you just drop that, like you're and they're like, and you make a decision not to pitch somebody just because they don't say yes right there, you're basically making the assumption that you spending 30 to 45 minutes face-to-face with them on a sales call, that you have no influence over whether or not they could find the money or make it happen, right? Like people have access to credit, loans, they can talk to their friends, they can pull out of their savings, their investments, you can break up payment plans. Like there's so many different things that you can do with the investment these days. Like hard financial qualifier is going to be lazy. Here's how I would do it. Like notice how it's like, hey, like I think we could be able to help. Like I'm not fully sure. We'd probably have to set up a call just to go over a couple things, right? Like as opposed to, hey, we can definitely help you. If we could show you a way, like now it's just like people get caught on now they're on guard. Now they're a little bit more defensive, right? If it's more like hey, like I think we can probably help you here. Not fully sure, but it sounds like we might be able to. Let's say we can, and we kind of explained how we help beginners step into the space and make their first $1,000 in XYZ business model. And like let's just say like you felt fully confident that it would work for you. Like, do you have a bit of capital set to the side that you'd be able to invest in something like that? So yeah, just like the hesitation in terms of if we can fully help them yet, we don't know that because we haven't gotten on the sales call with them. Kind of adds a little bit of mystery. And then assuming you felt fully confident it would work, right? Because that kind of prevents a lot of the times people will say, oh, well, like, what's involved? Like, how does it work? Or like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I can say that without knowing how it works, right? It's like, okay, well, like, let's just say like we broke it down and like you felt fully confident. You're like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Like, would you be able to set aside some cash for this? Something like that, okay? Now, let's get into the CTA, the call to action, right? So the call to get on the next meeting, right? We're asking them to get on the next call. A lot of the times it's like, hey, I got a bounce here, but I think we might be able to help. If I could show you a way where like we could take you by the hand, guide you through everything here, like, do you think that's something that you'd want to be a part of? Right? Or, you could even go for like a harder CTA if you want, where again, like you kind of qualify a little bit harder, where it's like, hey, now that we've kind of had this chat here, I mean, we are actually looking for a couple people to partner up with and work with on a higher level of intimacy. It sounds like we'd probably be able to help you with that. I mean, why don't we set up a call here for the next day or two and we can go over it, see if that would make sense, right? When's the time that works best for you? And then book them in, right? So a lot of times with the scheduling, I mean, when's the time that will work best for you? That's fine. I mean, sometimes, if you want to go like hardcore frame and authority, you can be like, cool, like I'm available at, 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. What works better? You could do that too. That works. But definitely send them a Calendly link, obviously. When you book them in, some people don't do that for whatever reason. Send them a calendar link, get them on a Zoom, and make it happen. So, okay, here's one thing actually. So after you commit to the next call, right? Send out some nurturing assets, like any offer that's like somewhat decent. You're gonna have a lot of like content and material that you can use to nurture your prospect, where you can passively make them warmer and more likely to buy on the next call, right? So like even for the offers that we have with our publishing company, Publish Experts, we build sales teams for like all kinds of coaches. Every single one, we have a document just like this, where we have links of every type of asset that we can send out based on the different kinds of prospects that we speak to, right? So this is a tailored nurturing asset, right? So it's like, you might get them to, if they're a complete beginner, you might want them to go through some courses. If you have a testimonial that like matches exactly who they are, we'll send them that testimonial, right? If they said like they had trouble, I don't know, picking their first product for their e-commerce store, right? It's like, okay, here's a video on exactly how to pick your first product for your e-com store, right? You might have like a pre-call video that's part of like the main funnel to book a call. So yeah, I mean, regardless, like just send out something, right? And then the kind of framing here, right, is, hey, yeah, cool, so great. I got you locked in for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Before that call, what I'll do, like, do you think you'd be able to find like maybe like 30 to 40 minutes to go through something? Okay, great. What I'm going to do, I'm going to shoot you over a case study of someone who was in a really similar situation as yourself. Take some time to watch it. That way, like, you can better understand our process. And then on tomorrow's call, we can just focus that entire conversation just on you and your situation. That sound good? Okay, great. You know, like the framing like that is like, hey, go through this call so that you understand our process so we can focus our conversation, be a lot more productive, right? Immediately after the call, once you hang up, send them a text, right? Confirm, hey, great chatting, just sent you the invite. Here's that testimonial, check out this video. You know, a lot of people just don't do this, right? Text after the call, right? The little things. This is what separates good and great. And then last thing, right? Like sometimes people ask me, oh, well, like, what should I do on the next call, right? I ask them all these questions about, you know, their pain and their challenge. Like, how do I start the next conversation, right? A lot of the times, I mean, I don't know, maybe you've experienced this before, but like if you're talking to, like, I think like I was on a call with like American Express once and I had some kind of problem. And, you know, I was talking to one person and then they had to like transfer me to another department, you know, and it was like this elaborate, complicated thing. I get to the next department and then they're like, okay, cool. So like, you know, the last person, they mentioned that you're struggling with XYZ problem. You've tried this, you've tried that. It hasn't worked. So you need to figure out X, Y, and Z. Is that right? And I'm like, yes, wow, like that's so nice. I don't have to explain myself a second time, right? Like instantly I'm like, wow, American Express, real deal, amazing. This is awesome, right? It's like a really good feeling when there's that like congruency and that throughput, right? As opposed to like, you're like, oh, so remind me what you do again for work? Like that's gonna piss somebody off, right? So note down, you know, a couple of the main points, you know, with where your prospect was at from that first call. When you get onto the second call, it's like, hey, what's going on? Okay, great, gotcha. So, you know, just to kind of recap, want to make sure that, you know, I got everything here. I mean, from what I heard from you is that, you know, you've been working this 9 to 5 for, it seems like the last 10-ish years. You know, you got to a point where like, you're just fed up with it. You know, you don't have the time freedom, location freedom that you want. And like, you've kind of made a decision now that you're going to step away from this. Like you're going to build some kind of a business online, go full time with it so you can have more time with your kids, right? Right, okay, and I think you mentioned on yesterday's call, like really the biggest thing that's been stopping you is the fact that like you just don't have information, you don't have guidance, like you have no clue where to even start. Is that right? Okay, great. You know, things like that. And then now they're like, oh my gosh, wow, this is awesome. You know, when you kind of have that congruency there, right? And then at this point, you pick up from where you left off. A lot of the times, like, because the one problem with kind of doing all of this on the first call is, you know, you might get them into that emotional state on the triage, but then on the closing call, like, you know, we already spoke about their pain and where they're at, and like, I don't want to have that same conversation again, and then you don't, you know, create any pain on the call, you don't create any urgency, and then you don't close the deal, right? So you do want to go back to it, right? Okay. Yeah, you do want to go back to it. So like, you know, you might just like clarify something, right? Like you might be like, okay, hang on. So like, you know, just out of curiosity, like you said, it's been like 10 years. Like I was kind of thinking about this on our conversation after we hopped off yesterday. Like, why is it taking you so long to realize that you need to make a change? You know, like we might go back to that, right? Like you might want to clarify something, or you might have a thought, something you're kind of curious about, whatever, right? And then at that point, go through your same process. You know, this is if you're self-setting on the call. If you're setting for you know, somebody else, great. Share the notes that you have with them, obviously. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's it. That's really kind of what you need to do. You know, hope you got value from this video. Hope you implement all of this stuff. Like this stuff took us years to figure out, and you know, for you, it'll just take you however long this video was. So yeah, I dropped the link down below with access to the Google Doc. Go and get it, print it out. Highly recommend. I mean, like I mentioned at the start of this video, like you want to make serious cash in sales, like you need to be able to do this, right? If you're just starting out, if you're kind of new, if you're not really good with this, like go and set aside like a weekend, go find somebody to partner up with, and literally role play this over and over and over and over again, right? Like the thing is like, you just want to be confident like with every little step of that call. Because you also got to be able to do this fast, right? It's not just about doing this, but it's also doing this within a 5 to 10 minute window, right? So you ought to be able to go like bang, 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 question, 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 you know, get to the pain points quick, get to the challenge quick, drop a quick story, book them in for a call, send them out a nurturing asset, schedule them on the calendar, boom, done. Next one, do it again, you know, like you want to have that down. So I'd recommend you role play this out a shit ton. And yeah, hope you got value, and I hope this video makes you more money. I will see you on the next one.